By the way, let me tell you guys something. Animal migrations are beginning. The bad type. So, I want you guys to do me a favor. You guys that have possibly walking routines and other things, be careful. Be careful. Bears are out of place, and in fact, all types of predators, especially those that travel in packs, are out of place. They're not in place. They've been found in various places they shouldn't be. No place is safe, and they're out there hunting. Something is happening to the migration patterns of most predators, so be careful. There have been quite a few predatory species, animals, cats, big cats, found in places where they should not be, right? They just shouldn't be there. And many reports are coming in, and hospital visits of people who their animals have been attacked, and they have been attacked, stalked. So be careful with that. Right? One of the reasons for that is we have an entire systematic change of the earth underway right now. Right now it's underway. So I would expect anything to be normal, right? Those magnetic changes we talked about last month, they are beginning to take effect. That means your personal animals are going to be under its influence. Birds of prey, same thing. So you got to be careful, vigilant these days. Somebody said, are we talking cougars or small cats? No, big cats. Big cats are out of place, pack animals are out of place. And just today, I believe it was I think more than a dozen people were attacked by pack animals. Sure, that will make your local news in various places as it continues. Also, you guys have noticed I've been real tired the last couple days. Well, let me share this with you. It's no secret about these folks who are sensitive to Hamas and Israelis and Jews in the USA. It is very tasking. It's becoming quite heartless what people are doing. When they begin to ask for the advice of people who are supposed to be relaxing at this point, something has gone wrong. Right? Cooler heads are not prevailing. And there have been a lot of people under the gun lately. People are getting hurt every single day, every day. In neighborhoods, you name it, people are getting hurt. It is a very distasteful thing to see. Extremely distasteful. I hope that, I was hoping that cooler heads would prevail. Of course, we're dealing with people who are easily influenced by particles and things of that nature. That's what we're dealing with. It is a hatred. You only read about hatred like this in history books. It's the truth. I mean hatred. And it's getting worse. Much worse. Right? Now, about 6 months ago, many probes were taking place of people who live in the USA who are prone to emotional prodding, so to speak, in this situation. Majority of those people were the scales, right? Now, first of all, I'm allowed to say what I'm about to say. It's no secret. Shouldn't be a secret anyway. But just so you know, I need to explain this so you guys understand. Your data is disconnected from you. Okay? Your data. This was about 22, going up to about 6 years ago. It was disconnected from you. So Your data was being analyzed, but you were not. Well, in that data, people who have been here for at least 5+ years, living in the USA 5+ years, they were prone to emotional prodding. And what I mean by that is any type of social media story that gained ground or possibly a headline was connected with it. People had exhibited absorption personality, which means they would easily begin to mimic anybody else who was in somewhat of a radicalized mindset, and it would begin to multiply. We're talking about Americans here, not anybody else but Americans. People also had become highly opinionated and violent behind their opinions, right? Meaning, in that data, people who were close to retirement all of a sudden became very irritated, agitated. This happened about 15 years ago. You're talking about people in their 50s and 60s. They became very agitated for no apparent reason. Well, environmental issues and influential issues from space actually lended a big hand to that. But they became very talkative and very opinionated. These opinions then started a trend, and people, analyzing that data, people had become extremely upset behind differences of opinions, where in most cases that it wouldn't cause a person to be upset. Due to the sheer exposure of one person to another, and the breakdown of these borders because of social media, it caused somewhat of a mob mentality to begin to form. So people had bought into many different speeches and articles and opinions. Now, it seems that people are radicalized behind articles or the news. And when I say radicalized, it means if Fox or if CNN, NBC, any of these major carriers, if they print an article and people hate it, they become radicalized against the elements of it, and they begin to fight each other over it. Today we face, I know they're showing on the news college kids, right? But let me give an example of something. In the last 3 or 4 days, domestically, there have been hundreds of domestic problems in neighborhoods. People with, they've been there for a long time, but now they've been fighting over this Israel and Hamas issue, right? Neighbor to neighbor. They've also been fighting over the voting issue. There have been people out there who have been, they normally go out and they tell people to go vote or something like that, right? Now they're being attacked. People are being attacked, right? People are being attacked over their affiliation, whether it be Democrat or Republican. And if anybody finds out what you are, there have been people who have been killed. The murder rate is going up among radicalized individuals who do this. And so it's very difficult to handle in a situation like that where, we're talking about in this country, between those who have been here for at least, who have lived here all their lives, right? Some of the people who immigrated, but no less than 20 years ago, right? So if a person immigrated here 20 years ago, and they're not of the suspected immigration type, which means they are, somewhat real normal, they really like American ideologies, these people, with the rest, are becoming quite agitated, irritated, and violent behind domestic issues. Not your normal issues, right? Murders are taking place. That murder rate is climbing pretty high. The cities are going to be quite vulnerable to a lot of inner city fighting. That will take place shortly, right? And the sad part, here's the sad part. Out of the people involved in these things, we're talking about folks who have lived here all their lives, right? You would think it would be over this, especially this Jewish issue, There have been people who have lived here all their lives and they hate the Jews. They just had no platform to speak their hatred on. Now that they have social media in the last 20 years, anti-Semitism has gone through the roof. A lot of people, they zero in on immigration. But what about the average person that lives next door? These are the folks, right? These folks are creating some problems. And it's starting to trickle out to everybody. Now, they can blame it on immigration all day. We know what the students are doing. I'm not talking about the students. No, I'm talking about the people who are supposed to have a handle, right, on their own citizenship. People who have been in this country for a long time, who should, at least respect the ideologies of this country. People who are American, right? If we took the whole foreigner thing out and threw it out the window, we would have a problem. Our murder rate is too high. It's too high. Listen to me carefully. I'm talking about the murder rate from, for example, I hate to use this language, just so you understand, Caucasian to Caucasian, right? African American to African American, so on and so forth, but not anybody who has immigrated. We're not talking about those from the Middle East. We're not talking about those from Mexico. We're not talking about those we're talking about domestic issues. Domestic issue and the violence surrounding people who have been here all their lives is rising. It's rising, and it's starting to get way out of control. Way out of control. Be attentive in this, because see, on the news, this is an election year, so everything is going to become political. Make sure that you are sure about your sources of who's starting what. Yesterday, there was a person who did not want any Democratic individuals near them. That was yesterday. Last week, the same thing happened with some pretty, some older people. I believe they were in the youngest one was 54. I believe the oldest one was 83, right? And they essentially reverted back to some teenage street gang going against those who would do something else. All of this was surrounding President Trump going to having his trial. And so they take it upon themselves to go and hurt other people, blaming other people because of that. Right? That is the old adage. Listen to me carefully. When a person has a darkness within them, they're going to exercise that darkness and use everything as an excuse to exercise that darkness. If a person has no darkness in them, it does not matter what's happening around them. You cannot elicit a person to commit what folks today are committing if a person has no darkness in them. Are you ready for those you don't think are violent to show who they truly are? It does not matter what the circumstances are. Circumstances only give an excuse for those who want to exercise these dark things, to exercise dark things. If it's not in a person, it will not come out. Sorry, it won't. So we have a big problem. It's rising. It's increasing. You know, there are big questions about this very thing because no one knows what to do about it. No one knows. It is something that no one has really experienced before. Kind of like what you guys are about to see in your animals. Many of you guys have some pretty docile animals. Those animals may not be docile soon. They may not be. Some, because of a certain changes, or you could say clashes, in our environment, could begin to become irritated, agitated, quite mean. A natural response in the animal kingdom to an environment that is changing rapidly. Might see that. Humanity is changing. It is. I mean, fast. Having said that, the Lord did warn us this would happen. He did warn us that people would slip into a type of madness. The Lord did. See, it's not just happening in America. It seems like the same statistical data is traveling around the world. No matter what country you're from, everybody's starting to experience some sort of violent breakout from people. Something is changing within them. As believers in Christ, we understand that the basis of all things is spiritual. At the beginning and ending of this physical realm is spiritual. At these happenings that we see are at its core, its root, spiritual. That what I'm going to remind you too, which is a spooky part for me, that the stone steps, in that dream of the stone steps, the people were implacable. You couldn't make peace with them. Do you not know the streets are becoming just like that? How can we come out of great tribulation in the sixth seal when we go to heaven at the last trump? The last trump is after the sixth seal. You know what? This is the exact reason. Listen, I know that a lot of people think that Revelation is out of order. I know they do. Right? We have the tools and the ability to really consider every single word in Revelation, not to change a thing, right? We can see a lot more now than we've ever seen before. Just like the book of Daniel. God said, Daniel, seal up the book. Seal it up. That means nobody's going to have an understanding of the book of Daniel until the time of the end. Well, we're at the time of the end, and now things are becoming quite visible, right? Many people thought they would be gone right now. They did. And they banked on it. They said, well, I'm not going to be here when anything breaks out. But listen, we know everybody has to. The Lord said, that day is not coming, lest there come a falling away, and that man of perdition be revealed. Think about that. The man of perdition is going to be revealed. Now, all you have to do is think of that. Wait a minute. That is the revealing of the Antichrist. He has to set up the abomination of desolation. That's how he reveals himself. He sets up the abomination of desolation, which means all of us, if we're alive at that time, we're going to hear about it. The Lord will come back and take no one until that is fulfilled. He specifically said that day will not come, lest there come a falling away first, that man of perdition be revealed. Right? The son of perdition. Right? So then the Antichrist must be revealed. And that has to happen before the Lord comes back to take anybody. That's what we're given. Now, people like to go in there and change things. Listen, it's no secret that sometimes people cannot handle certain truths. They don't want to go through hard times. They don't. And you know what? It's because they don't understand hard times. If people understood what hard times were, especially at that time, it'd be a different story, right? Be a different story. People would say, bring it on. I'm ready, Lord. I'm ready to serve in that time. They wouldn't be in a rush to get out, because I can assure you of something. If the Messiah opens the seals, why would anybody have to escape what the Messiah is doing when he sat there and said, he told us, nothing will by any means hurt you. See, most people have it backwards. Before you were sincere about Christ, that's when Satan got very close to you. That's when you went toe-to-toe with the devil himself. That's when you felt most of your pain. Before you could even defend yourself, many of you were touched. But now that you've given your life to Christ and you have this serious walk, take notice of what's happened in your life. You've had things that bark nothing bit, correct? Because the Lord is serious. Nothing can touch you unless he allows it, and if he does, it's going to be for your deliverance, in which case you have a voice in that. It's an opportunity. Here's the bottom line. Mankind has forgotten they are created. They have forgotten about the Lord their God. They speak about him. But they speak as though he did not create them. They speak as though he's external, that they owe him nothing, that they're living on their own and can come to their own conclusions. They have absolutely forgotten they were created for his purpose, for his pleasure, not for their own. And in so doing, when you have forgotten you've been created and you deviate from what you were created for, and you attempt to make a paradise yourself, and it falls apart, you become very hostile, depressed. Why? Because you've forgotten what life is for. Many people have forgotten what life is for. Life is not for a person to become everything they want to be. That's not what life is. Life is somewhat of a crucible. Life is a place where we learn the difference between darkness and light, where we actually, right? The big ones are coming. Now, just in case you don't know, in the time we're in solar maximum, it's early. There are normally two peaks, right, at this time of solar maximum. So you're going to have a lot of sunspots that gravitate towards the equator of the sun each and every time. But this time there are some different things happening, right? I can't go into that tonight, but this time, this solar cycle is by no means like any solar cycle we have ever been through. It's just not. Everything is different. It is. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that you guys are prepared. I'll do that by writing in COT, everything in COT. And yes, things have been held off in COT. That the intruder would do the damage in the Bible. In prophecy, something else happened. Something you might want to consider. Anytime a foreign entity with a foreign belief came into a place, the scrutinizers of those foreign people became the danger. Every single time. In this case, let's take Dearborn, Michigan, for example. Let's see what's happening right now. Right now, you have a lot of Muslims in America in different places. Lots of them. On occasion, those Muslims will be slaughtered. And you'll see it. You'll see it. I know it sounds backwards, doesn't it? I know it sounds outside of the norm. But I've seen that too many times. Out of fear, murder will take place. And so the enemy you think is the enemy is actually those who have come into a land. Of course, you have bad apples in the bunch who do certain things. You do, always. But a slaughter will begin. No one will have power to. No, they had to be ready for that. But they're going to make a political point out of it. You got to be careful during this. This is a political year. That's where you had to be careful of. This is a political year. So, but the Democrats are making no bones about it. Listen, let's be straight. They want him in jail, period. I'm just telling you what I know. They want him in jail. They're not going to stop until he is rightfully prosecuted in their eyes. And then other members are not going to stop until their plans come to fruition. Right? That takes prayer. It takes much prayer. But here's one thing you may not know. There are Russian operatives active within the USA. You're starting to see it more and more. Somebody says, how close were we to the stone steps? Well, I hate to say it, but if you remember the dream of the stone steps when the people were all over the place and in the streets and everywhere else, you know, none of us saw this Hamas issue coming, right? None of us did. It's only going to exacerbate this entire process. If, for some reason, President Trump goes to jail, all of us know it's going to be a scene of scenes, and the people are out there already. So it's almost, to me, it's like one of those unavoidable, I hate to see it coming, because shortly after that happens, 20 million Americans die. They die. 20 million. This landmass, America's actually hit. Right? Actually hit. Now, nobody has to believe that or not, believe that dream or not, but I can't help but to see it. And big, it does. It causes me a bit of anxiety because no one wants something like that to happen. No one. But let me ask you this. Having said that, right, why in the world is it they won't stop prosecuting people? It's almost like since that dream of the stone steps, everybody's been trying to send everybody to jail, and people have gone to jail. It's been this ongoing thing. And the people are becoming more and more implacable. I hate to keep using that word. That word means you can't make peace with that person, but people are becoming more and more implacable. They won't be comforted. You can't make a peace with them. You can't. The line drawn in the sand between different things is becoming deeper and deeper. And if President Trump undergoes some sort of incarceration, you guys know and I know, it's going to set this country on a tipping point. Anger, right? Because keep in mind, you have at least 60 million people who believe that America is lost right now. Lost. 60 million people who believe that America's lost. How do we know this? Because 71 million people are supporting President Trump and his interests every single time he comes up with something. 71 million people begin to interact by way of support for his things. So he has a strong support base. But they also have a general consensus that America is kaput, that the justice system is kaput, right? So if you're a Republican and a conservative, and you've been watching events for a long time, you could easily, truly, honestly believe that very deep corruption is in the whole system, and that something drastic is going to take something drastic to make a change. It's almost like they're holding on to things tooth and nail, right? Nothing has been able to make a difference one way or the other. And what we're really looking at is no compromise, folks. Not one side getting together with the other one. But we're looking at somebody's way being established and the other side totally being squashed. Whenever we get to this level in history, every single time we get to this level in history, something happens of magnitude so great, that it really turns everything inside out so everybody can see it and examine it. And then all of a sudden people say, well, we don't want that anymore. That's out of our systems. In my opinion, in the Bible, right, when tidings comes out of the east and out of the west, who do you think is still standing in a world that's ruled by some sort of Islamic rule, right? Who do you think is left that's actually going to fight the Antichrist of that time? Us. The West. So listen to me. I personally believe that we're going to have a moment of correction. We are, which is why Israel will have no ally for 3.5 years. We're going to have a moment of correction. We're going to go face to face, toe to toe with some of the darkest things that we have inside of us. All these things that have been splitting us apart. Because God does not establish something for nothing. Listen to me. God doesn't establish something for nothing. Yes, we had evil people that came into this country and tried to usurp it at its beginning. But in truth, this country was established to get away from a monarchy, somebody who could rule both the government and a faith. This country fought to get the scriptures. This country did. If not for America, nobody would have had the Bible. Do you guys know that? If not for the United States of America, no one would have had the Holy Bible. No one. Do you know that? Yes, we've had people come in and do this and do that, and we've gone through moments where slavery was in this land and everything else, but that wasn't everybody. These are the natural things that people work out. When you have so many different types of people with different ideologies and different backgrounds and different cultures, when they're coming together, they have a lot to iron out. It took us all this time to iron it out. Now we're ironing out the last pieces of it. The systemic issues. When these last issues are worked out, I believe we are the tidings out of both the East and the West. That's what I believe. We're going to be a totally different people. Plus, when the Lord establishes something, right? Because you may not know this. Do you not know that the order of the founders, a lot of people say, well, they were Illuminati or they were Masons. Well, you know there were 3 types of Masons in this country. You do know that. There was a type that was foreign. There was the underground Masons, right? The underground ones. Those were the ones that were doing secret things that were easily overruled by the Illuminati or overrun by the Illuminati. But you had an order that was away from the Templars and everybody else, and all they wanted was to construct something that would serve people and to do it right. That's why the founding fathers spoke against slavery during a time of slavery. Think about that. That's why they spoke against hostilities during a time of hostilities. Think about that. They had just exited a war, so they knew what the pain and the cost of war was. Think about that. People kept coming. Yes, some people stirred trouble and everything else. But then they said, we must educate people in the Bible. If we don't have God's word in this land, and if a person is not educated with God's word, they're going to be usurped. It'll turn back into a monarchy. Do you guys know that? And so these colleges out there, do you not know they taught the Bible in these institutions? Do you know that? That was at the beginning. It is American Christians who are the most peculiar. Do you know why? Because of our heritage. See, when you're from a different land, they have a heritage that goes back thousands of years, not us. We're raw to a degree. Fanatics for Jesus. See, mankind wants to know everything. They want to control everything. And when they can't control it, they don't know what to do. It's kind of like a rich person. What would a rich person be without their money? What would they be without their reputations? You're going to see some of that too. You're going to see a stark change in them. See, I know some millionaires. And you know what? Most millionaires, they continue to tell people they're only nice because they can get what they want and because they still have their money. There's a multimillionaire that told me that most of them stay awake at night with strategies. And I said, about what? He said, about how not to lose what they have. That's what they think about on a daily basis. How not to lose money. What kind of life is that? because money is their identity. They don't know how to rely upon the living God. They don't know how to live on the land. They don't know what it is not to have a type of power in a country. They don't know that. They've never been there before. They can't live like that. That's right. They try things. In World War II, they were trying to hide ships, and they came up with chemtrails. Do you guys know that? They started spraying in the oceans, over the oceans. That turned into chemtrails. Then they began to spray reflective material because of some advisements. That started in Russia, right? Then they had a living computer. Most people don't know about that. HAARP is tied to a living computer. I see no feedback, so that means most people don't know about that. Yes, there are papers on that living computer, and there are papers on HAARP too in complement to that living computer. And those who maintain the equipment and HAARP were given instruction for certain experiments, but they had no idea of the truth of that experiment. Every time they started to heat the atmospheres, right, it would cause the aluminum particles in the atmosphere to reflect infrared back down to this living computer. And they would have a living computer, right? The reason why they called it that is because if anything moves on the surface, they could see it on a spherical set of CRT screens. And that was by infrared. That was a long time ago, too. We're talking about World War II, post-World War II technology, right? And so they sprayed some more to get the highest reflectivity rates. Well, when NASA came along, after they got those folks in Paperclip, they had an advisement because of the sun. Remember those folks in Germany, they worshiped the black sun, right? So they learned all about the black sun. Then all of a sudden, they actually started getting these solar readings, and they understood about dark prophecies. And so over here, they knew we needed protection from the sun. Do you guys know that we're shielded from a high percentage of the solar rays coming through? Maybe you didn't know that. You didn't notice the permanent haze around this planet, did you? We have a permanent haze around this planet, and it's starting to deplete. When it depletes totally, the temperature is going to go up about 15 degrees everywhere. Did you know that? Did you know that? See, they messed up. They shouldn't have done it in the first place. But because they did, they put off something that was happened earlier. The Earth would have responded and cooled everything down. But here's where they messed up. When they started reflecting the light of the sun back out into space again, right? They caused the entire ecosystem of the Earth to begin to alter. Think of it this way. Think of a person taking they wrap their food in foil, right? And they cut their oven on 500 degrees. Right? So they're like toaster temperatures and whatever. And so what they do is they wrap it in a bunch of foil, stick it in the oven so that the 500 degrees won't burn up what's in the foil. Right? Won't burn it up. And let's suppose it's a bagel. Right? Now, all they had to do was not put it on 500 degrees. And they could have cooked it normally, right? But because they put it on 500 degrees, the temperature of that oven is going to be pretty hot. Now they have to have the foil, or they're going to burn up the contents of their in the stove. Well, they did the same thing here. And if they wouldn't have sprayed a thing, right? Ice would have melted in certain places, evaporated, went through a premature process, small heating. We'd have had a couple seasons of heatings, but everything would have normalized. In other words, the Earth would have reshaped itself to reflect some of this excess heat. But because they shielded the Earth from the heat, they postponed everything. So now we get all the melting all at one time. Now we're getting all the weather phenomena at one time because they're losing a percentage of what they sprayed over the years. See, in the upper atmospheres, things can stay in the upper atmospheres for a long, long time. But they messed up. Something is up in the upper atmospheres dissolving the metals. The heavy metals. They didn't count on that happening. When it all goes away, and it will, temperatures are going to rise so fast on the Earth, it'll make your head swim. But we do have external problems, too. See, we have multiple problems. It seems like everything mankind touches or tries to fix, they make something else worse because they don't know of all the systems, right? You guys remember when they said milk is good for you? And then about 20 years later, they said you got to cut back on your milk intake. Then when everybody cut back on their milk intake, they had all those vitamin D deficiency issues and K's and all that stuff. And then they told everybody, hey, you're going to drink your milk again. Same thing with coffee. They said, well, it's not good to have coffee, so half a cup a day is sufficient. And then about when cancer broke out and people's scores went down, they said, hey, you can drink as much coffee as you want. Coffee is good for you. You remember that? Remember that commercial, Got Milk? You remember the Sweet and Low? They said, ooh, this Sweet and Low stuff is good for you. But people found out that was embalming fluid, right? Embalming fluid activates at your body's temperature. So they were slowly embalming people. And indeed, the health crisis began. Then they came back and kind of, swept all that under the carpet. So every time they come out with a fix or some new thing, they don't know enough about what it actually interacts with, right? And when they don't know enough, they start messing something else up, which is why a lot of people who take prescriptions have another prescription to offset the first two. Then they have to take another one to calm down the effects of what the other one caused. Then it keeps going and it keeps going like that, right? Well, there you are. So, climate. Climate is destined to get pretty bad. In fact, no green thing is going to be left for a time on the face of this earth. It'll be like a big dust bowl. But at that time, we may not be alive for real at that time, right? The climate will continue to get worse. But here's how you'll know is they didn't do it. You ready? Because it's going to scare them to death. And they will have no contingency for it. It's going to scare them to pieces. And they will have no contingency for it. That's when you know they didn't do it. And their hearts fail them for fear. Because they know it's coming. That's when you know. And there you are. Okay, more questions. Let's hurry up, guys. I'm running out of time here. Someone said, do any other countries support Israel other than America? Or do you mean supporting Israel financially? No other country support Israel. And once we are compromised governmentally, right? We won't support it either. That's a sad day coming. But I want to say something about that. It's the only way the Lord can let us know that we have to trust in Him. He's going to have us be betrayed by what we trust. That's not Him. Remember that. The fires and the water is coming. It's coming. We're going to be facing those challenges. So having those things is going to be critical for you guys. And if we're going to have those at the website too, so that regardless of where you are in the USA, you'll be able to get that by location data or whatever you enter in to see what the plan is for the specific town, city, county you're in. I think that's very important. More people die every single year in these fires because they don't know how to get out of the place they're in. And that is a tragedy, right? It's a tragedy. So to know that is a big deal. Two of these counties who lost 500 people in 2022, they said that the first responders and the police had the manuals in their trunk, but they weren't even familiar with the exit points, and that's not going to work. Right? You guys have never heard me use that term 7-year tribulation, have you? And there's a reason for that. It doesn't make me right. The word is right. It didn't make me right. I just haven't used it for a specific reason, but we'll cover that. Folks, I want to say God bless you. I'm going to go. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow right here at the Council of Time. God bless each and every one of you, and thank you for your time again here at COT. God bless. You guys take care of one another. I'll see you guys next time right here at COT.